Friends, pause for a moment and stay with me because what we are about to discuss is not a routine geopolitical update, and it is not just another headline about tension in the Middle East. Imagine the single most powerful figure in Iran, the man whose word defined the direction of the Islamic Republic for decades, whose religious rulings influenced nuclear policy, whose authority shaped every major political and military decision in the country, suddenly gone. In a system where power was centralized around one individual, the removal of that individual changes everything. The supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, had served as the ultimate authority in Iran for more than 3 decades. His role was not symbolic, it was structural. His presence held together a complex political machine composed of clerics, military institutions, and economic networks that collectively define the Islamic Republic. Now imagine that system suddenly losing the individual who acted as its final arbiter. No clearly announced successor. No immediate clarity about who holds the ultimate decision-making authority. The political elites in Tehran are forced to adjust in real time, while clerical institutions in Qom begin internal discussions about constitutional procedures. Military leaders assess security risks and consider how to maintain stability. Citizens across the country follow developments with uncertainty, knowing that a leadership transition in Iran has implications far beyond domestic politics. The structure that guided the country through sanctions, protests, regional conflicts, and international isolation has suddenly entered a moment of transition. For decades, Iran's political architecture revolved around one central principle: the authority of the supreme leader. Ayatollah Khamenei occupied that position since 1989, following the death of Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, the founder of the Islamic Republic. Over those years, he became the central decision-maker in matters ranging from national security and nuclear policy to media control and religious legitimacy. In Iran's unique political structure, the supreme leader stands above the president, parliament, and judiciary. While those institutions exist and carry out daily governance, they operate within a framework ultimately overseen by the leader. This is why any discussion about leadership succession immediately draws attention across the world. Iran is not simply another country undergoing a routine political transition. It is a nation of more than 80 million people located at the center of one of the most strategically sensitive regions on Earth. It possesses significant energy resources, a sophisticated missile program, and a network of regional alliances extending from the Persian Gulf to the Eastern Mediterranean. Decisions made in Tehran can influence conflicts in Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, and Yemen. They can affect energy markets and diplomatic negotiations far beyond the Middle East. Understanding what happens next requires understanding how the Islamic Republic actually functions. The system created after the 1979 revolution was designed as a hybrid structure combining republican institutions with religious authority. On one level, there are familiar elements: a president elected by voters, a parliament known as the modules, and ministries responsible for administering the state. But above these institutions exists a parallel structure rooted in religious jurisprudence known as velayat-e-faqih, often translated as the guardianship of the Islamic jurist. Under this principle, the supreme leader acts as the highest interpreter of Islamic law and the ultimate guardian of the revolution's ideals. The Constitution grants the leader authority to appoint key figures across the system: the head of the judiciary, senior commanders of the armed forces, half of the Guardian Council that reviews legislation and electoral candidates, and directors of state broadcasting organizations. The leader also has the power to influence strategic policy decisions and, if necessary, override the decisions of elected officials. This arrangement created a layered system where elected institutions function within boundaries defined by religious authority. During his tenure, Ayatollah Khamenei developed a reputation for balancing various factions within that system. Iran's political landscape includes conservatives, pragmatists, reformists, technocrats, and powerful military organizations. Managing the tensions among these groups requires careful political calibration. The leader often served as the final mediator when disagreements emerged between institutions. His position allowed him to arbitrate disputes, prevent any single faction from dominating the entire system, and maintain overall stability. One of the most influential institutions in this architecture is the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC. Formed in the early days of the revolution, the IRGC gradually evolved from a revolutionary militia into a major military and economic force. It operates alongside the regular Iranian army, known as the Artesh, but with broader responsibilities that include protecting the ideological foundations of the state. Over the years, the organization expanded its activities into construction projects, telecommunications, energy development, and infrastructure initiatives. This growth created a network of economic influence that intersects with its military capabilities. The IRGC also plays a central role in Iran's regional strategy. Through specialized units, it maintains relationships with allied organizations across the Middle East. These relationships allow Iran to project influence beyond its borders and to create strategic depth in regional conflicts. Groups in Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, and Yemen have at various times cooperated with Iran on security and political matters. Analysts often describe this network as a system designed to deter adversaries and extend Iran's reach. Alongside the IRGC stands another crucial institution, the Assembly of Experts. This body consists of senior clerics elected to supervise the supreme leader and, when necessary, select a successor. According to the Constitution, the Assembly convenes when the position of supreme leader becomes vacant and deliberates on who should assume the role. The members examine candidates based on their religious scholarship, political experience, and ability to guide the country according to Islamic principles. The process can take time, as consensus among senior clerical figures is not always immediate. In moments of leadership transition, the balance between religious authorities and military institutions becomes particularly important. Clerical leaders emphasize constitutional procedures and the preservation of ideological legitimacy. Military leaders emphasize security, stability, and the prevention of external threats during uncertain periods. Both perspectives reflect different aspects of the same system. The challenge lies in coordinating them effectively while maintaining public confidence. Another dimension of the current situation involves information and intelligence. Events surrounding high-level leadership transitions are often accompanied by intense speculation about how developments unfolded and who possessed prior knowledge. Security services typically launch internal reviews to evaluate protective measures and identify vulnerabilities. Such reviews are standard practice in many countries whenever unexpected events occur at the highest levels of leadership. They are part of the broader effort to ensure that institutions continue functioning effectively. Beyond domestic politics lies the regional environment. Iran occupies a strategic position near the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most important maritime passages for global energy trade. A significant portion of the world's oil shipments travels through this narrow waterway connecting the Persian Gulf to international markets. Stability in the region, therefore, carries economic implications that extend far beyond the Middle East. Even small shifts in the security environment can influence energy prices, shipping insurance costs, and broader economic expectations. Israel and several Arab states also monitor developments in Iran closely because of the potential implications for regional security. Over the past decade, tensions between Iran and Israel have occasionally surfaced through indirect confrontations involving cyber operations, airstrikes in Syria, and maritime incidents. Meanwhile, countries in the Gulf region maintain complex relationships with Iran that combine competition with occasional diplomacy. Leadership changes in Tehran inevitably prompt these governments to reassess their strategies. Technological factors add further complexity. Iran possesses a diverse missile program that includes both short-range and medium-range systems. Some missiles use liquid fuel, which requires preparation before launch, while others rely on solid fuel that allows faster deployment. Missile defense systems developed by various countries attempt to intercept incoming projectiles, but the effectiveness of those systems depends on numerous variables such as trajectory, speed, and the number of incoming targets. This dynamic has led to ongoing debates about deterrence, defense capabilities, and strategic balance. Drone technology has also become an increasingly visible component of modern military strategy. Unmanned aerial vehicles can perform reconnaissance, carry payloads, or coordinate with other systems. Because drones are relatively inexpensive compared with traditional aircraft, they can be produced in large numbers. Their use in conflicts across the Middle East has demonstrated how technological innovation can reshape military tactics. At the same time, economic pressures continue to shape political decision-making. International sanctions, fluctuations in oil prices, and domestic economic challenges influence the calculations of policymakers in Tehran. Governments facing economic constraints must consider how foreign policy choices affect trade, investment, and public welfare. These considerations interact with ideological commitments and security concerns, creating a complex environment in which leaders must balance competing priorities. The next stage of events will likely unfold through a combination of constitutional procedure, internal political dialogue, and strategic calculation. The Assembly of Experts will eventually determine how to proceed with leadership succession. Military and security institutions will continue monitoring regional developments. Diplomatic channels, both public and private, will remain active as other governments seek to understand the evolving situation. Observers across the world are paying attention because transitions in major regional powers rarely occur in isolation. They influence alliances, economic expectations, and security strategies. Analysts will examine signals emerging from Tehran. Official statements, appointments within the government, movements within the armed forces, and interactions with foreign diplomats. Each of these signals provides clues about how the system is adjusting to new circumstances. What remains clear is that Iran's political structure was designed with mechanisms intended to manage moments like this. While transitions can generate uncertainty, the institutions established after the revolution were meant to ensure continuity of governance. The coming weeks will demonstrate how effectively those mechanisms operate under pressure. For people watching from outside the region, the situation may appear dramatic, but the deeper story lies in the functioning of institutions. Political systems are ultimately defined not only by individuals, but also by the structures that outlast them. The decisions made by those structures during periods of change will shape the direction of the country and influence the wider region. As events continue to unfold, observers, policymakers, and citizens alike will follow developments closely. The choices made in Tehran during this transitional moment will carry implications for regional stability, diplomatic relations, and global economic conditions. The world will watch carefully as Iran navigates one of the most consequential moments in its modern political history.